colleges and
welcome to Detroit in Black and White, our Thursday edition. I'm Adolph Mongo. We're here in lovely Trenton Downriver at Ramsey. Thank you, Johnny Mill. Jim Nardone, you was the police chief here, right?
I was.
Okay. You're not anymore, right?
I am not.
Okay. We like the new police chief better.
I know.
Allan Lengel from Deadline Detroit.
Hello.
Never been downriver, scared to come down here. What's the problem?
I have been to Wyandotte. In fact, Friday night.
Not downriver.
Friday night, it was just a group meet in Wyandotte. So I am,
You moving. You need to keep going.
Inching to real.
Melvindale, Riverview, Gibraltar.
Is that the real downriver?
And the final. What's the final? What's the island?
Roselle.
We go all the way to Rockwood, though. Rockwood is yeah.
Oh, Rockwood.
Yeah, Rockwood. You forgot about Rockwood and Gibraltar.
Well, anyway, we at Ramsey's. We're doing our Thursday edition. Draft day. Man, listen, they say 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 people coming to Detroit. Let me start with you, Alan. Your take on draft day. Is it all worth it?
Yeah, I mean, I've always just, and maybe Jim can provide more insight. I'm kind of always baffled how hundreds of thousands of people come from all around the country for this event. I mean, it must be fun that they keep coming for this event, and obviously there'll be a lot of people locally. So I mean, it's a good thing. Look, the NFL has so much money. It's such, I think, of all the sports right now, football, the NFL is the most successful in marketing its product. It used to be the NBA, I thought, was really, really the best. But I think the NFL has got an amazing amount of money. They're spreading their games more to Europe. They're all playing games during the season in Europe and stuff like that. There is a group of guys from Great Britain who have a blog, and they live broadcast from Great Britain every game. They've been Lions fans for, I don't know, at least 5-10 years.
I saw that shit.
They're fanatical. They love it, and they're here. They're here in Detroit.
Well, it's just like when we broadcast from Exchange and we see the soccer people that's from here. I can understand why they do that, but I don't get it.
Right.
You know what? I'm not going to be Manchester United and walk around with their shirt on and say, you know what, I got a blog. But hey, you know what? Football is a sport that people, once they get to know it, they like it. Now they're getting rugby people. They drafting rugby people. They going to Australia getting kickers and stuff.
Well, I mean, here, it's interesting. I was just watching a friend's grandson play soccer in Madison Heights last night. And, you realize when we were growing up, baseball was the game, really. Right. That was the main game. But now, they've created this sport, soccer, where even if you're not, I mean, if you play baseball and you're not good, it shows. You strike out, you can't catch the ball, you bobble the ball. But in soccer, if you're not good, you just kind of run up and down, you stay away from the ball, but you're on the field. It's easier for all kids. It's more inclusive. And I think
But you gotta be in shape. Now we got a Slappy here. He loved it.
Kids were great. These kids they were 10, 11 years old. So, it was Buddy Fenster's grandson. I mean, he was very athletic. I mean, he was handling the ball, running down,
But it's still the most boring. It's the most boring sport in America, not in the world. They kill people for it. Remember one of the superstars out of South America, I don't know if it was Argentina or Venezuela. They lost a World Cup game. He came home and it was a hit on him, killed him because he didn't win. Now, your take on the draft?
Well, I think the draft is for the common people. I think that's what it's free, right? If you want to if you want to get 2 tickets to the Super Bowl next year, if the Lions win the Super Bowl, it's going to cost you $30,000.
Isn't this going the way of the Super Bowl now? It used to be at Radio City. It used to be the draft choices was at home. They get a call, say, "Hey, you've been picked number 1," etc. And that was it. Now the Super Bowl, people could pay $10 to go to the first Super Bowl, $15 the next Super Bowl. Now the common people can't go to the Super Bowl because corporate America ate up the Super Bowl. Isn't this? There's 300,000, 400,000 folks that's coming now. Is going to turn into corporate America.
I don't think so.
And the city's going to have to pay. Now, NFL is paying, but now city's going to have to pay to get it, just like the Olympics.
Here's what's good about the draft. The Lions have not been competitive up until over the last 30, 40 years, right? And they used to call the draft at the Marriott Marquis in New York City. So they would just, like you said, they just call you up and say, hey, you're playing for the San Diego Chargers, now the Los Angeles Chargers. But people don't have an opportunity to engage. For a team that's been losing or going to continue to lose, they don't have any opportunity. They always said the draft is your Super Bowl, and I think there's some truth to that. I think the Lions, by coming around and being better and competing, has made this a bigger event than it may have been without that.
And you know what? The Lions have become, it scares me, but it's become America's team for some people. Sort of the working man's team, not like Dallas and whatever. But I fear that once a team becomes America's team, people start to hate on it after a while, like the Dallas Cowboys. I lived in DC. I went to a Redskin game back then against the Lions, and these 2 big dudes walked in with Dallas jerseys on, Cowboy jerseys, man, and they hate the Cowboys there, man. And within a half hour, those 2 guys had gotten in a fight in the stands, and they were escorted out.
That shows you people stupid.
It's tribal. It's so tribal.
I lived in Colorado, and when the Lions was playing Denver one year, this is the 70s, Thanksgiving, I won a lot of money at work because Lions, for some reason at that time, they rose to the occasion and win the Thanksgiving Day games, and Denver was good, and it's like, but any other day, Lions stink, Lions terrible, Lions.
So what are you seeing in Corktown, Alan? And what are you seeing in Midtown? Are you seeing a lot of activity?
It's some activity in Corktown, but not the hundreds of thousands of people. It's probably all downtown. So,
I see in Midtown on Woodward, there are people in Lions jerseys waiting out for the queue line. And it's interesting, as I was walking by them, I saw these people in Lions merchandise, paraphernalia, whatever, and I said to myself, I don't own any Lions like hat or shirt, because I've been a Lions fan all my life, but I haven't been a proud Lion fan. And I'm finally getting to that point where I'm ready, I think, to buy a Lions hat, because I'm actually really loving the Lions. But, I used to love the Pistons, but I probably watched a total of
Pistons at least
10
one
minutes.
championship. You know what, Alan? You're gonna be one of those people on your deathbed at 90 or 95. I just hope the Lions win go to the Super Bowl.
Please.
They're not going.
Hi, Karen.
Close, but not a cigar.
Thanks,
You know
Karen.
what? Jim, probably last words were, I'm a Lion forever.
I don't even care if they win the Super Bowl. I'm just glad
They're not going.
Glad they got rid of the guy that came from Georgia. They got the guy that came from California.
But listen, he went and won a Super Bowl.
because the safety dropped them.
It don't matter
Interception.
it don't matter what they
That's Aaron
drop.
Donald's Super Bowl.
Yeah,
That's
it
Aaron Donald's Super Bowl.
It doesn't matter.
Let's see what happens now when Aaron Donald.
But I'm glad that we got all these folks. And you know what? And I'll tell you, I've been a believer in the city. I've been here and came back here since the 80s, even in the worst times when there was nothing downtown, when they had the Grand Prix. And I'm glad to see it coming back downtown, and because they put it on Bill Out. That was the worst thing they could have done. And you know what? And company is coming, so they start cleaning up. I just hope they continue to clean up the city, because they have done a hell of a job to make folks think, oh, Detroit is back. And then when you get idiots like what's the guy from ESPN, Stephen A. Smith talking about, the Lions brought Detroit back. Fuck you, Mr. Smith. Detroit never went anywhere. But
it is. You know I agree with you about that. I mean, it's really sort of a shame that we got to wait till we have guests over before we make our house nice, before we clean it up. Why shouldn't we be living?
Don't we do that?
We do that.
Don't we do that?
Right. Guests are coming over, and
don't
then
you wash your dishes if you invite somebody over?
You clean up your place, and then you look around and you say, "Why don't I have this all the time? Why do I have to wait just for guests?" You know.
But it is different from 2006.
What the Super Bowl?
The city.
Well, the city's in a different spot.
I enjoyed the Super Bowl in 2006. I thought the city did a hell of a job in 2006, even though all they did was throw some paint on some abandoned buildings, etc. They had some pop-ups, but the folks enjoyed the Super Bowl, even though, the only Lions that went to the Super Bowl had to buy tickets, and they still got to buy tickets, but we'll see how it turns out tonight. And we'll go from there. But
Big Sean's going to be there tonight.
Who the hell is Big Sean? Who is Big Sean?
He's our Detroiter. He's a rapper. He's from Detroit. He went to Cass Tech.
I don't care about the rappers.
He went to Cass Tech. He's big.
Okay.
Big time.
Okay. Yeah. I'm Big Sean. Hey, Big Sean. How you doing? Well, that we'll see how on Sunday. When we come back on Saturday, we'll see how it is at Corktown when we at McShane's and see the thousands of people or whatever,
I think you're going to get some overload people coming out towards obviously Midtown. They're going to be they're encouraging people to park out in Midtown and ride the Q line down and
the toy train.
Yeah,
but they need the toy train and they need the people mover. And one thing that it exposed in Detroit, that we have no transit system here. Mm-hmm. And if we did, we can get people all the way from Pontiac down, etc. I was downtown yesterday, never seen that much traffic. I came up from Southfield and people was leaving Detroit. It was like DC. You know how you get out of DC, New York Avenue, Allen?
Yeah.
What it take to get 30 miles into Maryland? How long do it take? About
it depends if it's rush hour. I mean, during the DC would be so paralyzed if it didn't have the subway system, and even then, in the morning, you see cars coming into the city from Virginia, and Maryland. It's a lot, and that's the thing here.
3 ways to get out of DC: Virginia, Maryland, and the other part going in Frederick. But anyway, let's take a break. We'll come back and we'll talk about the demonstrations at our college's campus. I tell you, it reminds me of Vietnam.
1968 all over.
Yeah.
Without Project Clean Slate, there is no telling where I would be right now.
It gave him back his life, because once he got the felony, it seemed like life was over.
being unemployed, being depressed, being a burden. Project Clean Slate helped wipe those things away. I can't say thank you enough. I am now able to work for a reputable airline. Detroit had my back, all because I live in Detroit.
The NFL Draft is coming to Detroit, and you can be there for free. Experience the ultimate NFL fan fest. Go to NFL.com/draft access. The NFL Draft, presented by Bud Light, April 25th through the 27th.
Okay, we're back. Adolph Mongo, Detroit in Black and White, Allan Lengel, co-founder of Deadline Detroit, Jim Nardone, a contributor here, former police chief of Trenton. We're here at Ramsey. Thank you, Johnny Neal. Allan, you've been following the protest on all our college campuses.
I have.
My problem, I got one problem, and it's not with how people respond to the protest. It's not with the protest, because people gonna do what they're gonna do. I think it's just been the right wing assholes on hijack the narrative. All of a sudden, they against bigotry and discrimination and shit, and you know that's not true, because they could care less about what they do to black people, brown people now, but they unadopted the Jewish students. Listen, Jewish students been facing the same bullshit that I faced when I was at Ann Arbor. You know, nothing different, but the difference is now that you got folks that's saying, oh, it was okay to kill a couple thousand people, and they supposed to, you know, Israel's supposed to not respond.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Yeah, I have to tell you, growing up all my life, and really this is more some of it Trump and some of the anti-Semitism that spread around the country, not just really on the campus, but there is some of that going on there. I grew up wondering the whole, you know, my parents are Holocaust survivors, so I was always like wondering, like, how did that happen in the 30s, where people were just listening and following this crazy man who was very charismatic and was promising and uniting them against one group of people, and I just never got that. But when Trump got in, started to get an understanding of it, and then, you know, as a Jew now, to feel the anti-Semitism, I have no problem with protesting the war. It's like war, you know, as Ernest Hemingway said, no matter who's in the right, war is still a crime, and you know, it's legal killing in some ways, and so I have no problem with people protesting that. And there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of sides to it. I mean, right after Hamas attacked Israel, you had people cheering Hamas here in the U.S. You had people, and there are issues. I don't like the idea of Israel occupying the West Bank, but I also think there needs to be a peace agreement there where, you know, there's a sovereignty, but that sovereignty includes patrolling your own country like Egypt and Lebanon and all that. But now we're seeing it on campuses, and like I say, I'm 100% supportive of people protesting. But when you start, there have been some places where Jewish students have been attacked.
But you gotta break it down, though. And I'm gonna tell you, I can get mad. Listen, you know, if I criticize Israel, that don't mean I hate all Jews. It's like when I was in college during the 70s, and we was protesting for the U.S. to get out of South Africa, don't invest there. Israel, the government at the time, supported the government of South Africa on a lot of fronts. But that don't make me mad at everybody that live in Israel because some asshole that's the prime minister decide this is what we support. I didn't get upset with all the Jews, because Moshe Dayan said, and I was in the military, that black folks in the military in the U.S., well, they really fucked up the military here because they can't think and all this other shit. That's where I get pissed off when people say, "Oh, I hate all the Israelis, all of them, kill them all."
Hey, look, you know what? We
No.
see Donald Trump here, and you guys know how I feel about him. It's like, I'm proud of being American. I'm ashamed of America when he's president, when he speaks for us. I have relatives in Israel. I was in Israel the last time at the end of 2022. I'm supportive of Israel. I have a lot of cousins there and stuff like that. I'm ashamed of Israel for having Netanyahu. And so there are people, people say stupid things like, Moshe Dayan, I didn't know that he said that, but
1982,
but we can't, every group can't, because you're a Jew, because you're a black, and like Kanye West is black and he says something, and for someone to say, "Oh my God,
Kanye West ain't shit," we go back to Farrakhan, because once you say, when Farrakhan says some shit that about Jews, listen, and if I was a Jew, I'll be pissed off too. But then you got black folks that say, "Oh yeah, he did say that, but he does some great things."
Right.
So we caught in that slippery slope.
Look, Adolf Hitler helped reduce drastically the unemployment rate in Germany, and people were like, "Hey, he's great," and he'd say, "Yeah, the Jews are the ones who are, taking away."
And Mussolini got the trains on time coming from Rome to Milan.
Right. So look, bad people do some good things. Leaders who are dictators and killers, they also do some good things.
Should these students that's protesting, should they get kicked out of expelled from these colleges because they protesting? Jim, you know what? We grew up when they was protesting in Vietnam, people burning themselves up and doing all kind of crazy shit. And that's what it reminds me of. This is what's happening. It toppled the president. Johnson didn't run because Vietnam ran him out of office.
Well, I think this is what I think. As a former police officer, you should be able to peacefully protest. But where does it cross the line? If you have a tent city in the middle of New York,
can't have it.
But they do have it.
But you shouldn't have it. You shouldn't have it. I'm sorry.
And then you have people beating up on police. I see a guy hitting a police officer with a jug. Did you see that? Hitting him on the head with a jug. He got the guy.
Or you taking a flag, somebody got an Israeli flag and you beating them up with it, or they got a Palestinian flag. Or when people hear "Death to America" over in Dearborn, what do you think gonna happen? I'm just gonna tell you. And I tell you who caught in the middle of all this: African Americans, because Arabs now saying, "Oh, you're not standing with us," and our Jewish brother said, "We was with you during the civil rights movement, and we did this and did that," and I got folks saying this is not our fight. So listen, America is at a crossroads right now.
I was telling you in the very beginning, right after the October 7th attack in Israel, Charles Blow, New York Times, a black columnist for the New York Times, was writing why blacks were siding with the Palestinians and going on and on. He said, the Palestinians were there supporting Black Lives Matter. They flew some of the black leaders to the West Bank to check it out. And I wrote him an email. And I said, well, first of all, there were a lot of Jews supporting Black Lives Matter, including me. And second of all, some of it's just, to support Hamas right after that attack, whatever the policies are. And I don't agree with all Israel's policies, but to support the savagery that happened there, the rapes and the sexual mutilation and the burning of babies and, killing people in front of their families and children in front of their parents and and killing children in front of their parents. I mean, you know, to say, yeah, that's okay. And then the laughable, maybe even more laughable part is that the LGBTQ community is, you know, they're marching in support of Hamas. When if you talk to those people, they'll tell you we do not support LGBTQ. It's against the Quran. It's against Islam. They would not be welcome there. And so a lot of people don't.
And if you go into 5 or 6 African countries, they got the death penalty for gay folks. Uganda, go to Kenya, and you know, countries that I want to go visit. But if I was gay, you know what, I wouldn't go there. But but the bottom line is that I blame your colleagues, Alan. I'm not a journalist anymore. I blame the media. The media let this shit go on and on. They don't call them out and stuff. And people say stuff on the internet, and if people take it as being true all the time.
And the thing also is, look, I was on strike at the Detroit News for 19 months. I got arrested twice. Once for blocking the entrance of the Detroit News, another time for blocking the entrance at the riverfront where the printing plant was, and they arrested us. So at some point, when you're impeding some operation, when you're shutting down the school, at some point the school has to continue to operate. At some point, you have to be removed.
Should these presidents of these universities be held accountable? It's like all of a sudden, fire everybody. Fire everybody. We got Fetterman, who's an idiot out of Pennsylvania, saying Mitt Romney can bring Harvard back. All this shit. Now these folks, you know what? They call between the rock and a hard place. When you know what? What do? Do you call in and have a Kent? We're gonna have a Kent State moment if they don't watch out, because I look at Texas where Greg Abbott called in SWAT and the riot, police, etc. Somebody gonna shoot somebody, man.
I think here's my feeling is that I don't know about firing, but there should certainly be, the university's president should be held accountable. I mean, you have to, as somebody has written many times already, if it were, let's say, look, there's vigilantism around here. When September 11th happened, people were going after the Arabs. They were going after the Sikhs, not realizing they weren't Arabs. But they were, look, if people started protesting on campus and a woman with a hijab was walking by and they started shouting and harassing her, that would be pretty horrible. But when the Jewish students come walking by, it's kind of tolerated, and that's the thing that no student should. They're gonna have to fight. They're gonna have to fight back.
I'm gonna tell you, I wouldn't take it if I was Jewish, if I was Arab, and somebody. I'm black, and when I've been on campus, if I was Catholic or whatever, and folks want to piss on me, I'm gonna fight back, and they should fight back. But you know what? This is going to be an issue that's going to play big time in November election. Go ahead, and we're about to run out of time.
Well, I think part of it, if the war somehow is able to grind down, I think there's enough time where if it's still going during the convention, which is a possibility, we're going to see what we saw in Chicago over the Democratic convention in '68, where there were just riots. And look, the movement. Is that enough
to bring Biden down? And I'm talking about, what?
It's hard.
You got Junior. You got Robert Kennedy Jr. sitting here. This is like '68 all over again, man. And you got somebody worse than Nixon, Trump. So right. And you got Joe Biden, and you got Grandpa here. Grandpa is, is he up to the task?
It's hard to tell how it's going to play out. And the funny thing is, not so funny, is that look, the Arabs and the Muslims are caught in a situation where they say, okay. I mean, I talked to an imam out in Detroit at a mosque, and he was saying, I can't vote for Biden because he has genocide on his hand. He says, or do I vote for a guy who might have genocide? I might vote for the guy who might rather than the guy I know who did. And then he says,
that's funny. That's funny. None of these Arabs said anything when Saddam Hussein was killing all Muslims.
Well, look,
Iranians,
Assad.
all kinds of shit.
Look, Assad has killed hundreds of thousands of Muslims in Syria. Hundreds of thousands.
Nobody wants the Palestinians in their country.
Right. Well,
Jordan
look,
said we got too many. Egypt said we don't have
Lebanon.
any. We about to go ahead, Jim.
I just think you bring up an interesting point. You talk about being embarrassed or you can't vote for Trump, but so I had a person come to my door. I guess they were a delegate. I could tell they were from the Democratic Party, and they looked at me and they were like, "You're a Democratic voter." Okay, you tell me what I am, because I signed up for something online that said I was supporting something. All right, and they looked at the other person who lives in my house and they said, "You're a swing voter." And she didn't have it right. But the question is, how can you vote for either one of these guys? And I will argue this till the end. Joe Biden's uncle was not eaten by cannibals, all right? And here's the president of the United States saying on national TV that his uncle was eaten by cannibals. And then you have the Ted Cruz and Rafael Cruz, the National Enquirer. And then you have Kennedy,
he out of his
basically saying Biden.
You know
is
what,
the moral
Jim?
Trump and Kennedy voters.
Ideally, people talk about ideals and I'm going to stand up and I can't vote for either one. It really, and people are saying, I'm tired of voting for the lesser of the two evils. But you know what? Right. That is so often what it comes down to. You can vote for your third, fourth party candidate. They're not going to win. It's going to be between those two people. So you have to, I think you don't have to vote, period, or you can vote for a third party candidate. But the reality is, the majority of Americans have to vote for the lesser of two evils. And it's really,
I'm voting for Henry Wallace.
That'll be the problem then.
Well, anyway, this is Detroit in Black and White. This is our Thursday edition. We'll be back next week. You'll see us on Saturday over at McShane's, Michigan and Trumbull, the draft.
And we will have, we're going to talk about the draft. We're also going to have a candidate who is Muslim, who's going to be running in Oakland County against Haley Stevens on a platform of the war, and we'll be talking about the war with him. And so
we'll see how that work out. Thanks, Allan. Allan Lengel, co-founder of Deadline Detroit. Jim Nardone, our contributor from Trenton, Downriver, Johnny Mia. Thank you, and Teresa. Thank you very much.
All righty.
Maybe one day we can get Vanessa the come on the show.
She's been down here
running for 36th District Court. And you know what? Her mind someplace else.
And Detroit died on Saturday too.
She wants to be a judge.
Now, Adolph, 36th District Court, is that Wayne County or just Detroit?
No, that's Detroit. Wayne County. Detroit.
Yeah.
And you have, what's his name from Detroit Dye Company?
Yes. Detroit Dye.
What's his name?
Greg Stamus.
Okay, we're going to talk to him, and then we're going to have Todd Batson, Deputy Mayor, come in. Okay, we should have a good show. Thank you very much.
All right, let me